Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 100% Her in session, which we are so proud of hosting for the first time here in Stockholm. My name is Patrick Appelgren. I'm the Senior Vice President, EMEA, for Universal Production Music. You know, I've been working in production music many years. uh, when I first started, we sort of measured how successful our music was by which order the editors would place our CDs in their studios, editing suites. That was quite a long time ago. And a lot has changed, thankfully. Change is happening all the time, but the one we're gonna to discuss tonight is an extra exciting and very important to increase female and non-binary writers on the roster and what options limit us from getting there. Hopefully we will learn a little bit more this evening and continue to develop the 100% Her mentoring program even further. With that said, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening. With a 25-year music and culture journalism career and published author, who literally wrote the book on Scandinavian extreme metal music. So, without further ado, please help me welcoming Ika Johannesson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Ika, and I worked as a music journalist for 25 years. Before that, I was a music nerd and record collector from early childhood, thanks to my record collecting father. I've been steeped in music since I was born, and for that I am eternally grateful. I grew up in the early 80s and, of course, became a metalhead. I played in metal bands in my teens, and ever since then, gender equality has been an important subject for me. Because I have been quizzed, I have been questioned, I've had my music knowledge, my music dedication doubted ever since I was young. Simply because I'm a woman. I learned early that I needed to know more to gain respect. I learned early that there's a small acceptance for failure when you're a woman. I learned early to imitate the men, to play on their field, to toughen up and learn the jargon. And this makes you tense. No matter how strong you are, it makes you tense, it's toxic, and it stays with you. I turn 50 next year. I know I'm good at what I do. Well, thank you. Thank you. I survived. I know that I'm good at what I do. I know that people today don't question my knowledge, but I do. Every time when I get a project, someone offers something to me, my first question is, am I getting this because I'm a woman who knows a lot about extreme metal? Or am I getting this because I wrote a really good book on the subject? I mean, probably both, right? But it's crazy how this is so deeply ingrained in me still. Simply because I was born a woman. Even though I know that what I taught myself and what I thought I needed to be and needed to know is wrong and unnecessary, it's still there. I still question myself and I still question my position even today, even though I want to or not. And I know now, and I hope for coming generations that they don't have to feel this self-doubt due to sex, sexuality, skin color, anything. It feels like a utopia sometimes, but I am hopeful for the future that we don't have to carry this with us. Right? Thank you. I'm so tired of it. I'm tired of it. I do know, though, that I got this assignment because I'm a woman. So let's get this show rolling. I'd like to welcome you all to this first panel discussion titled Harnessing Your Full Creative Potential. And now that's something we'd all like to do, right? Our objective here with this event today and this evening is to help create safe places, to share experiences, and of course make room for a little bit of networking. And maybe finally get that roadmap to success. Share some advice and tricks on how to succeed in the music business. This first panel is going to go on for about 45 minutes, and then we're going to take a short break before the next panel. So, I have three amazing music producing, songwriting guests that I want to invite up to the stage right now. Please welcome Matilda Gratte, Cornelia Vibos, and Helena Larsson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, first question. Which song do you wish that you had written? Helena.
For me, first?
Yes.
Well, it's difficult to decide one, but there's a song that I really like that I heard when I was 18 that made me want to write music myself because it's very like it's a fun song in a way. It's by Hello Safe Ride, and it's called The Quiz. And the way she's written it is very, it's a question to someone. Everything is just an ongoing question. And I think I had never heard a song like that. That's just, I don't know, it's fun and it's just written in a way that I never heard a song been written before. So I would say I would have liked to write that song. I'm gonna rewrite it and make it mine.
Please
in
do.
Swedish, yes.
Please do. Matilda.
That was a very good, thought-out answer. And now I will present my answer. We actually got this question a bit earlier today, and I still haven't really found an answer. But I'm just going to go with two of my favorite artists that released a song together. And it's Daniel Caesar and Jacob Collier. And they released a song called, did I hear a woo? Yeah. Called, God, what's the name of the song? Anyway, it's a song with the two of them. And I think either way, like if I got to work with Daniel Caesar in the studio, I would be very happy. And if I got to work with Jacob Collier in the studio, I would be even happier. So I can't really go wrong with that choice. But I'm blanking on the title right now. So probably not going to happen. But that's my answer.
You had one job.
Yeah. I've already failed, so it can only go up from here.
Cornelia.
My answer is not as well thought of, but I would say "Happy Birthday" by Stevie Wonder. Because just like imagine every like surprise birthday party and that song comes on. Like it's a huge like happy place to be. Like to have that feeling every time that song plays, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'd like for the audience to get to know you better. So I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your story and how you became a music producer and songwriter.
So I'm Helena, and I started producing when I was 22. I started studying at the SI Institute in Stockholm, and then also did an internship as an A&R. And that wasn't as much for me as writing was. And the year after, I went to Musikmakarna, and that's where I met Cornelia and Matilda, because they went to my class. And we graduated during the pandemic. Great time to graduate and party. And then that's when I started freelancing and did some production music, did Eurovision with a song called Growing Up is Getting Old with a Bulgarian artist called Victoria. and yeah, did some production music and a lot of pop music, Swedish pop, and worked around Europe a bit. But production has been great. Production music. It's had some songs in TV shows and Netflix and commercials. So yeah.
What's TV series on Netflix?
The Sex Lives of College Girls, I think it was called.
Interesting. Okay, Matilda.
My name is Matilda, and I'm a singer and songwriter and pianist. I went to school in Boston at Berklee College of Music, where I studied jazz and songwriting and arranging, among other things. After college, I spent some time in LA, where I did an internship at a Swedish label over there. And then after a while, I came back to Sweden, and I kind of realized that I didn't know many people in Sweden that were working in music, because I had been living abroad for like 5-6 years. And then I found out about Musikmakarna, where I met you guys. So I went there to study production and songwriting, and I got to know some people, and I started working. So yeah, today I work full-time within music, but in different ways. So I'm a writer. I write for other artists, everything like ranging from pop music to jazz to K-pop. And I also write I have my own project, like an R&B project that I've just started releasing music with. And yeah, I'm working with Helena, for example, co-producing. I also do a lot of production music for TV and film. And aside from that, I also tour with other artists. So I play keyboards or sing. So right now I'm on tour with Zara Larsson during the summer. And we have our last show this weekend in Berlin. You guys should come. Yeah. So a bit of this, a bit of that.
And Cornelia?
I'm Cornelia. I'm a songwriter, producer, and I recently just started really focusing on my own project. I've also studied with you guys at Musikmakarna, and it feels like I've done too many music schools like before that as well. But that's kind of when I really started to produce for real. Like before that, I was kind of like guessing what I was doing. But I've been writing for other artists as well, and doing production music. And I mean, I play in bands. I do all different kinds of stuff. But writing in Europe and in Sweden, and yeah. But right now, I'm just focusing more on my own project and doing production music. Yeah.
As you mentioned, you can never have too much applause. As you mentioned, you graduated in 2020 during the pandemic. It's been 3 years. Have you found it easy to establish yourself in the music industry as songwriters and producers?
No.
No.
Not very easy, no. I think it's a lot of identity crisis going on all the time. You know, first in school when you're thinking, am I a producer? Am I a writer? What do I feel the best at? What am I best at? And then later on, when you feel like you found a way and you think that you know what you want to do, then people tell you have to find your sound. And then you're like, what's my sound? And yeah, it's been difficult sometimes, but more fun than anything, I guess, because you get to reflect a lot on what it is that you want and find new dreams all the time. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I think it's also it's hard to feel established also working with something that's creative, because it's like you kind of even if you have if you have a job that kind of pays for your way of living for a while, it still doesn't mean that you're established, because if you're not inspired, then you can't really work. So for me, it's been a lot about just trying to find or trying to come to terms with the fact that I have to choose work that I actually want to do. And that's a luxury. Like, it's a luxury to get to that point where you can actually choose what you want to do. But I think that's key when you're a writer, because it's impossible to work with something that you don't feel inspired doing. And I think I made that mistake a lot in the beginning, that I was trying to just hustle and like sit in the studio, and I thought my success depended on the amount of hours that I would put in the studio, but I would actually end up getting less done than if I actually just sat down and thought about what inspired me and what am I good at, rather than trying to fit like a box.
Yeah, I agree. It's but I feel like you never really get established, and I feel like everything changes all the time. What you do and how you do, like what kind of music you write or who you write with, and that's also like the nice part of being a songwriter. Like, I feel like what I'm doing right now, I might not do in 5 years, and it could be like the same or it could be completely different. But it in the way that it's still a creative like profession, you can still do whatever you want, and that still makes me feel creative in a way. Yeah.
What made you all decide to go into production music? And how does it differ from making commercial music?
I actually had an internship at yeah. But my thought with having that internship was like, I'm not gonna do that kind of music, so
Why?
Because I was thinking, okay, it's not a like real label or like publishing thing, and it's more like to see the other side of the business. But then I ended up doing it, and I really enjoy it. So it's a lucky mistake in that way. Or I mean, yeah.
I think it's so nice to work with production music, because usually you have like such clear instructions or like such a clear lead. Like, you can sit and you work with other artists' projects, or you work with your own project, and everything is so like intertwined with identity and like these like existential emotions, and everything is like so serious and so big. And somehow it's in that headspace, it's really nice to get an email just saying like, write a song like this BPM, like it should be called Dance Until Sunrise, and like this is the key, you know. And it's like it doesn't have to be that serious, which kind of makes you more relaxed. And in that headspace, I think it's easier to like actually access your creativity, because you're not blocking all of your ideas in a really early stage. Like you're more free to, I think, to just investigate like these little song seeds that you might have that you didn't believe in the first place.
I think me getting into production music was kind of also not a mistake, I guess, but happy coincidence. We had a lead at our school with Universal, and me and Matilda were in the session together, and we had so much fun. And we were just like, okay, so we can actually do anything. We're just gonna sync to this video. This is great. So we sat and like rewatched everything, and then we went with feeling. I think Matilda started with like piano and started singing something in a kind of strange voice, not her usual voice, and we were like, this is amazing. This should be on TV, on a movie. We should make movie music. And then I guess the dream kind of started that we were gonna do things together for production music, because like Matilda and Cornelia said, it's very like it's a very open space, very openly creative space that you can go anywhere really. You also, as a producer, so much structure, which is very nice. A bit more like session-wise, I feel it's less messy, less how do you say, chefs in the kitchen? Yeah, how do you say that? I don't know. Yeah, but less people involved in the actual creative process, which makes it easier as a producer as well to just focus on that part. And for me, that's been amazing to find.
Do you remember the first time that you heard any of your syncs show up in something?
Me?
It wasn't the first time, but like one of the first times I saw something, I knew that our songs were being synced in a Norwegian TV show. So I like searched on Instagram, I think, and then I saw a video of my song being synced to a guy doing like a party trick with his nipple. And it was like a really serious, like I made this electronic beat kind of, and I was like, I never thought it would end up there, but it was really fun though.
But isn't it scary with the lack of control like that?
No. Or I mean, like, no. I mean, that's also like the kind of mindset you have to go into, that like this could end up anywhere, and that's how I feel.
I kind of think, because I have an artist project as well, and I think in that, with those songs, I would feel very scared, like if I had that lack of control. But I think that's part of what's so fun about production music, that at least for the three of us, like when we release this music, we do it under like an alter ego or like a different name, because usually like we will like switch up the genres, or we'll do stuff that we might not actually be comfortable doing, but it's like it turned out well, and then we will send it in anyway. But I wouldn't. It's not necessarily attached to my artistry, which means like that all the politics of it is kind of removed from the product, and I think it's only about the music, which is nice, I think, in a way.
I have a fun time when I heard a sync, which was I was at the vet with my dog Alphonse, and we were in the waiting room, and I was really, really nervous because he was not feeling well. But then on the TV in the waiting room came a commercial for First Vet, and our song was there. And Alphonse looked really proud. So yeah, that was cool.
Okay, the title of this whole event is 100% Her. So I'd like to talk to you about your experiences as females in this music industry. So let's begin with who gets to do what and why in the studio. So can we start talking, tell us about the session environment. What are your experiences?
I mean, you guys are more producers. I'm usually the writer in these types of sessions, and maybe you guys have more of an experience being the main producer in the room.
Yeah, I can talk a bit about how it feels like working now, because I work a lot with other female producers and writers, but also everyone. But it feels it was more difficult early on, I guess, which is always is, because you have a lack of confidence in what you do sometimes. And when I was studying, it could feel like producer is a very male word. You often put female producer. If I'm a producer, people would say I'm happy you're a female producer. And so in the session, it can be, sometimes it feels like you're the first one to back away from that job, because it's not naturally assigned to you. But it kind of depends who you work with. I've had very good experiences and some bad experiences. So it's difficult to just say exactly how it is, but how it can be really great if it's with people that are inclusive in general and very, open-minded to hearing each other's ideas. And I prefer working in a bit smaller groups. It makes it easier to get heard. But yeah, I think it depends a bit. Maybe a diffuse answer, but
What do you say?
What was the question? Was it for
the session environment when you're in the studio? Like, how have you experienced? Have you experienced obstacles? Just simply because you're a woman?
Yeah, I mean, it's both good and bad. Just because if you're being a woman, especially working in Europe or elsewhere that's not in Sweden, like it's a totally different, like where we are. But
in what way?
No, but it's very like uncommon, and it's more like, what are you here? Like, oh wow! Like I put it on Instagram, like my first female producer work, like. But yeah, I mean, but it's not like necessarily a bad thing. Like sometimes it's always like it's also something like people are really excited and are glad to be working with you because of your gender in that way. But I mean, it's always tricky, and also especially when I'm also a songwriter, like how, like I often get put as a songwriter instead because there's always someone that is more of a producer than you. Just because I can do both, like okay, then I like step back in a way, which is like if you're in a stressful, like if you're at camps or if you're in a stressful situation, you want it to go fast, and then like the one that can do it the fastest get to do the producing, and you're just like, okay, I'll do the vocal arrangement and the blah blah blah, just because they don't really write or whatever. But I feel like times are changing, and like more and more females are starting to produce, and like it's, I think like the people that are 10 years younger than us, like it feels like something is happening there, like how people are doing it, and more, and I think it's really important that more and more like females start to learn just the basics and how to do it, and I like try to encourage like friends to do that as well. It's like to know your stuff, because it's so much easier as a songwriter to communicate as well if you know what you want, because songwriting is also producing when you're writing with someone else, I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have something to add?
I was thinking about what you said in the intro. You said that like you had always felt like you had to know so much more than the men to be able to like claim that position or
To be
space.
prepared.
Yeah,
You know?
and I think in a way I feel the same, and I think just with the producer role, that maybe there's a part of that role that is about like identifying with the role. And if you have representation in most of the producers that you see, and again, this is changing now, which is really good, but if most of the producers that you see are male, then it's easier for men to identify with producers, and for a female producer, it might feel more important to to kind of academically like motivate taking that space. And the only thing that I can compare it to, because I come more from like the musician side of things, and I play the piano since I was 5, but I still wouldn't like call myself a pianist, because when I was studying music, most of the instrumentalists were male, and like I would naturally go towards like the microphone, or just because that was more of like a role where I saw that I had other women kind of doing the same thing. And even like in music classes, like at school, we would have like the guys would kind of more play around, and like they would switch instruments with each other, and they would like, oh my god, now I'm gonna play drums on this song and I don't even know how to do it, but it's fun. Whereas if I was to perform, like, or even play piano, I wanted to have practiced it at home and made sure that it was perfect before somebody else could hear it, because I was scared that they would hear me make a mistake and then I wouldn't like qualify to be a pianist anymore. And I think that there is a gender aspect to that. And I thought you said it really well.
And that permeates everything, because when that groundwork is laid, that's what still trickles down into the behavior. But female writers and producers are, I mean, things are changing. They're changing really slowly, but are still very underrepresented in both released music and published production music. Why? What are the main obstacles, do you think? I mean, you've been in the business now you're still, I wouldn't say new, no, but you have, what do you see? What are the obstacles today?
I would say it's a lot to do with the way that it's shaped everything. When I first started, it felt like sometimes at our school we would have like Fridays where we would play music, and you played your song, and then it was quiet because we waited for feedback. And I interpreted that silence as awkward and thought that, okay, nobody likes what I made. But then, you know, the guys next to me would be like, yeah, they love my song. They're just breathless, out of breath because it's so good. And I feel like that's kind of how, when you get into it, if you don't have like a role model or if you don't have a strong belief in yourself, and that's very hard to have, like when you're 18, 19, 20, 22, everything. It's just, I think you need role models that show that it's possible to do what you want to do. And it wasn't until like, I think it was 1 month ago when I found out that the first like official programmer was a female. I didn't know this, and I wish that it was more like information around, you know, producer shouldn't be a word for males. It should be like an occupation. So when I say I'm a producer, it shouldn't be quite like answer with, oh, you're a female producer. It's just the word. So I think that's just, those things need to change. Start with. I think that's a big obstacle, that it's so related to, yeah, men.
What other obstacles have you observed?
To get women into production,
or just being a woman trying to make it in the music industry.
No, but it's not that women need maybe to have more confidence, but it's more like trusting your like knowledge and trusting that you know what you do, because you probably do. Like, and especially when it comes to producing, it's not as hard as you would think it is. It's more like a matter of taste and knowing like what you want and how to shape it, kind of. And I feel like at first I was very scared, like I can't make it go the way I want it, but it's not as hard as you would think. But when you look at other people, and especially like male producers, like what are they doing? Like what is this like plugin? I can't get anything what they're doing. But when you get that plugin yourself, you're like, but you just added like a, I don't know, some grit, or I don't know, like it wasn't more advanced than that. And now I know how to do it. Like sometimes I feel, at least for myself, that I saw producing as like, oh, this is like super advanced and super, I don't know, but it's not as hard as I would think from the beginning. Yeah.
And I think in that sense that it comes down to representation, like to see that, okay, somebody else is doing this. And for that reason, I think it's really important to create like female non-binary space where like you can kind of feel represented. And I think that the discussion about like quotas for women is very interesting, because a lot of people will say that it's wrong to choose an individual for a job based on their gender, because ultimately that would mean that it happens at the expense of merit. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you take like the music business and you take, you look at like music producers, and this is like an industry where women have been like structurally excluded historically for such a long time. And it's not, so like the men that have these jobs don't necessarily have them because of merit, but they have them in fact because of their gender, in a lot of cases. And I think the point is to have quotas for women so that this changes until we are at a point where people actually get their jobs because of merit and not because of gender. Yeah.
But let me flip this question, because it's kind of easy to be pro quota of women, but do you want to be that woman? Oh, you're here because you're a woman.
Yeah. No, I don't think anybody wants to be that woman. No. Like nobody wants to be a female producer. Like we just want to be producers. We just want to be people. But personally, I think that like quotas are, I mean, it's not ideal, but it's also for the next generation, so that the next generation can have role models, and so that we get to the point where we don't need quotas anymore. But it's not like a natural outcome that the music producers today are so like vastly overrepresented by men. It's because women haven't had the same opportunities to go into that sort of jobs, to those sorts of jobs, and yeah.
What do you think the men in this audience is thinking now? What do you think is their explanation to the lack of women in the producing chair? It's just to do it, right? There aren't enough women.
No, but
what do you think? What is the other side?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to think, but I don't have an answer yet. I need to think a little bit more. Do you have anything?
What their answer would be? Or
yeah, why do they think? Because I often find that it's, you know, when you try to turn it around, and when you, that it's, well, there's just not enough good women.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, that's true in the sense of that more male like producers, there are more male producers, but that doesn't mean that there aren't like as great of like female producers and songwriters as male, but it's just harder to find women, I think, because there's just not as many. But yeah, I mean, it's easier to just call a friend and, oh, I know this guy, and, you know, it's the easy way to find people to work with. And I feel that also in the studio vibe, and like in the studio, like how, especially in my studio, where I said like how the men like walk in and out like of each other's studios, like, hey, what's up? Yeah, that song is so nice, blah blah blah. Like, come in and blah blah. And but it's not a bad thing. But it feels like women are often excluded from that kind of like, yeah,
the feedback part.
Yeah.
And sick beat. You know.
Yeah.
But
or,
what do you do when
But-
you're exposed to those situations?
I think one of the most valuable lessons I had in that situation was just learning, like, because I definitely didn't know that first. I thought that I needed everyone's validation to keep doing music. And that mentality is just not right when you're doing music, because you're never going to get everyone's approval or everyone's validation. And just that situation about getting feedback, I think like, for me, it was just saying it, that I want the feedback. But I still think it's difficult to say what men in this room in general would think. But my experience would be that some people feel that it's difficult to talk about feedback with a female producer if it could come off the wrong way, because people are aware and they want to be aware. And I think that's a problem in itself sometimes, because they kind of step on, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm not going to say anything. And then that's the problem, because I just want to get feedback on my song. And then I guess what I did was just turn to the people that I know will give me feedback. And I was lucky enough to have some of them around me by then. And I also think that's why it's so important to have these, spaces with other women in the business to just talk, and because it's so transparent in a way. So if I ask Cornelia for feedback, I know that it won't be, she won't be scared to say if she thinks something is bad, because she knows that I won't misunderstand it as something else. And I think that's something that a lot of men probably feel, that it's difficult to say the right thing. And we all feel that sometimes. But I think that would be something that's, when it's a big discussion, of course, people will get a lot of feelings around it. So it's difficult to say.
It's a huge discussion. Were you thinking of adding something? You looked thoughtful.
No, but I don't remember what I wanted to say. I thought what I wanted to add was I think that, and you were kind of covering that, but I think that the awareness has spread on this issue, at least like a little bit, and hopefully it will continue to spread. And I think that there are like men and women on both sides that think, if we're talking about quotas, that think quotas is a good idea, or that think quotas is a bad idea. And ultimately, there are a lot of people that are trying to make this better on both sides. But I think it is important with community and to also create female spaces where, as you were saying, just to create community.
Mm. You talked about role models, and we do have like major songwriters that are female, like Robin, Lale, Jenny Wilson, Fever Ray. I mean, that's quite a lot compared to some years back. What is needed more today? Why is that not enough? What's needed more today to encourage women to get into this part of the industry, do you think? Like solving a world crisis. It's like it's really hard. I know I'm asking you hard questions.
Change the world to a panel. I didn't really hear the end of the question, to be honest. Could you just say the last part again?
No, I was talking about that there are an ever expanding amount of female role models coming through, and what more is needed to encourage more women, specifically into the producer. You say that female communities. Is there anything on an educational level? Is there anything that you've observed?
I think that as we get more and more women into these like seats, we're kind of also changing the work environment, and I think that the producer behaviors that have been like premiered have been like male behaviors. I don't want to be like essentialistic, but like
such
as like playing the song on a really loud volume, like when they're showing the song, like at least when we were talking about
the playing things at Musikmakarna.
Yeah,
you showed
like,
your songs.
Exactly. We had on Fridays we would play the songs that we had made for like people in the industry, and it was like a thing that we used to joke about, that the guys who were playing their songs would like raise the volume to like the max, whereas the girls would be more like, this is my song. And I'm being very like general right now, but I think that as we have more representation in that part of the industry, it will also allow for different types of attitudes, and it won't be the people who like scream the loudest that will automatically get the job. I don't know if that makes sense, but
when it comes to the creative business, if you had one thing that you had the power to change instantly, what would you aim at? What's the most important change you would make?
For me, I would probably, when it comes to lectures, when it comes to like sitting at lectures and listening to people talking, but I think sometimes during school we had the guys coming up and talking about their career, like from LA or from Europe, talking about how they got successful in business and showing their luxury cars and big parties. And then if there was a female lecturer, she would come up and be very humble sometimes. Like, this is also generalizing, but my experience was that they would come up and say, yeah, so this is my career. I think I understand what you're going through right now. And this is how I felt when I was at your stage. And that like difference, I think that's the thing I would change immediately, that it has to stay humble. But of course you can, like, it's not bragging if you're saying something that you've done. I think you should be proud. I want everyone to like take credit for what they've done. So that I would change instantly. Like, take credit for what you've made, but still, like, lecturers, be humble.
Very good. What would you wish to change, Tilda?
This is the hardest question so far. I can only pick one thing to change.
Yes. But you can have more. How much
streams?
Do you...
No. Yeah, I'm gonna choose that one. No, I don't know. yeah, probably. Also, I think that it's important to have these discussions because I think it's a very anxious climate surrounding these discussions as well, and I think people are scared to express their experiences and kind of on both sides. I think, and it's a sensitive subject, so I think it just needs more debate and more people willing to speak up about their experiences so that we can actually talk about these things and it's not just so that people aren't scared to communicate with each other. I guess that's what I would change.
What would you like to change about the industry?
It's I would say, or what I sometimes feel listening to new music in general is the lack of taking a time to really make a song that makes you feel something, just as a listener, But it feels like today's songwriting in general is very stressed and not as the best way to write a song is to rewrite it, if you know what I mean, to just really have a proudness in in a career as a songwriter as well. And sometimes I feel labels and everything just want to push out as many songs as possible. So yeah, but it also depends. Sometimes a really good song is made in 2 minutes, but just in general, how the mindset of the industry is, I would say.
The last question. We have many aspiring writers and producers here in the audience today. What is the one advice you'd like to send with them on the way from your experience?
Can I give 3?
Of course.
Okay, I need to think.
Shower them with advice.
Yeah, I think this is just general advice that I wish I'd known earlier. First one would be just finding balance, not to work 24/7, like Matilda mentioned, that in the beginning it's easy to do that. And it's just going to be 2 now. But the other one would be always back up your computer, because that's horrible.
Okay, so I would probably say, kind of drawing on what I was talking about earlier, about wanting to present something that is practiced and perfect, to kind of throw that whole idea away and to not be afraid of bad ideas, and to, especially like writing with other people or working with other people creatively. I think the most important thing is that you are not afraid to have bad ideas and just like throw things out there, and you can build off of each other. And it's not about being like good at something, it's about being bad at something. And I actually have like an example of that I took with me when I was at college. Herbie Hancock was visiting the school because he was going to have like a workshop or something, and he had walked through the corridor of the practice rooms, and when he was having his lecture, he was saying how he was so disappointed because he had walked and he had like heard all of these students practicing their instruments, and he thought that it sounded way too good. And he said that you're not supposed to practice what you're good at. Like when you're in the practice room, you're supposed to sound awful. Like you're supposed to push yourself, and you're supposed to do you're supposed to be like going over the things that you can't do yet, and that's how you learn. So I think that's my advice, to like have the courage to be bad and unprepared.
Do you have that courage?
Yes, but I remember the name of the song, my first failure of the day. And that is Time Alone with You. So look that one up. It's really good. Thanks.
And what's your advice, Cornelia?
I would like just come back to that, what I said about emotions. Just as a songwriter, it's really important not to lose feeling emotional when writing songs. And I don't mean like crying and like being heartful. Also like the happy feelings, because sometimes I write songs that are like, what am I doing? Like, this is so silly, and like this lyric is crazy. But then I like laugh reading the lyrics, and then I go and record it. But you know, to have some emotions, because the worst thing is to have zero emotions for a song. And that's when you need to do something else. Like, so my advice is stop writing songs and do projects that makes you feel nothing, because that's like that's the thing that kills creativity the most.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for this talk, Helena, Matilda, and Cornelia.